we have seen one basic reality that Upanishad is talking about, and that is that there is only one reality and everything else is mithya. Okay? Mithya is defined as that which has a dependent reality. Okay? So it does not mean that it does not exist. It does not mean that it's an illusion. It does not mean that it is unreal. Okay? It only means that it has a dependent reality. Okay? So how did we just start with one given object and we say that this table, which looks as such a tangible reality, when I look into if I look little bit further into its reality, I begin to see that this table is nothing but the wood. Okay, so therefore if I take out the wood from here, there will be no object remaining called the table. Okay, so therefore you can't call this table an illusion, you can't call it unreal. Okay, but at the same time, in terms of its reality, you can't give it an absolute reality either, because it derives its entire existence from the wood. Okay, so therefore table becomes mithya and wood becomes satyam. Satyam is that which has an independent reality. Okay, then what we say is wood now mithya or satyam? Mithya. Why? Because why?
Because it goes back to an atom or particle.
Excellent. Right? So that means even that wood, now the quantum physics has made it much more, accessible, what Vedanta has been talking for thousands of years. Okay? Because this wood itself is nothing but atoms and particles, so it cannot have an existence without atoms. So therefore, even the wood is what we call mithya. It has a dependent reality, and what is the reality is what? Now you can say atoms and particles. Then what the quantum physics keeps on going little bit more and little bit more. So what do they say? Even atoms are mithya, is the particles. Then particles are mithya because they depend upon quark, and then it just keeps on going. Okay? After a while, they don't know where does it stop. They don't know where the building block of the universe is. So this is where Vedanta does not just reiterate what quantum physics says, it gives a value added by saying that if you are looking for an object which is a building block, you'll never find it, because it is forms within forms within forms within forms. Okay, the building block of the whole universe is not the object, but it is the self. Okay, how? Because in fact, after a while, there is no real tangible. At the quantum level, there is no real tangible object. It's all just concepts. Okay, so those concepts, they require one thing for their existence, and that is awareness. Okay, without awareness, there is no concept. Whereas concept exists within awareness. And who are you? Are you this physical body? No, because this physical body is also nothing but cells. You know very well that the cells come and go. During your lifetime, how many times the cells undergo change? How many times? None of the cells that you were born with, they exist now in your body. Every 12 years, there is a complete regeneration of cells. Okay? So therefore, you are not the physical body, you are not the mind, which is also nothing but what? The physical brain is what? Neurons. Neurons are also nothing but what? Atoms and particles alone. Okay? And you know you are not that. Okay? So where you are, who you are, according to Vedanta, you are Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Okay? You are that existence which is awareness and which has no boundaries. Satyam is existence, Jnanam is that awareness because of which you come to know different conditions of what? Not only the external world, but also your own body, your own mind. Okay? Because that is what we call the real nature of the observer.
So you think the real building block of the universe is the I?
Exactly. Excellent. Okay. Because everything resolves in concept, and concept exists in awareness, and awareness is only one thing which is available to you, not as an object but as the observer. Okay. So the whole premise of Vedanta is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The entire universe, just as you examine the table, you examine anything, everything has a dependent reality, and everything depends upon that awareness for its existence. And who are you? You are that awareness. And that awareness, what is the nature of mistake that we make? That awareness, which is the observer, we give the attributes of body and mind to that awareness, and we make it limited in our understanding. And we suffer from this limitation for generations. Okay? So the only way to get rid of the smallness is not by accumulating more money, more power, more whatever, but by knowing your true nature as the very basis from which the entire universe comes. That is a total paradigm shift. It is not right retaining your individuality and giving you some fixes of how to be a better human being. It is not that. It's understanding the reality from a totally different standpoint. It is like when Einstein was saying that when you're caught in a problem, and this is where the problem is, okay, the solution does not lie here. The solution lies where? In coming out and seeing it totally differently. Vedanta does that. Okay? So therefore, now the only big thing, which is the next few verses, that is something we've already seen. Okay? Now this mithya world, you can't dismiss it as something which is, when you say mithya, people generally think that, oh, it's something that is transient, it is something which is changing all the time, so I don't need to pay attention to it. We are not saying that. Okay? Why? Because all your life is lived in mithya world. Right? All the decisions have to be made in mithya world. All the challenges of relationships, situations, everything is there in mithya world. So you can't just ignore it as something which is transient, because just by saying it has a dependent reality, it doesn't give you any clue how to tackle mithya. Okay? So now the next few verses are giving you understanding of how this mithya works, in light of which it helps you in your decision making, it helps you in all your day-to-day living. How to deal with your emotions, how to deal with challenges, how to look at the challenges. The whole thing is a discussion. You can't just afford to ignore mithya world. Okay? So this verse is talking about what is the nature of mithya world. Okay? Mithya means the entire creation, which includes time, space, and every object within time and space. Okay? What is our normal understanding of the world? We think that it is linear in nature. Okay? So for everything we say, it has a starting point and it has an end point. Okay? Our whole thinking is what we call linear thinking. Okay? What is the Vedic vision of the world? The Vedic vision of the world, he uses an analogy of a tree. Okay? What is a tree? The tree is, okay, imagine what you see of the tree is what? The branches, the trunk, or the flowers, leaves, and everything. Now you want to eliminate the tree and you cut the trunk. What will happen? It will grow again. Okay? So then what? It grows again, and then you cut it again, it will grow again. Why? Because what is there? The roots. The roots are invisible to you, but the roots are actually the support for the entire tree that exists. Okay? And the roots themselves come from what we call the seed. Okay? The seed you plant, and what happens when you plant the seed and you break open the seed? Do you see the tree over there? You don't see it. even if you don't see the tree over there, there is this whole big program where if you take the tamarind seed and you sow it and you water it, what will come out? Only a tamarind tree. It cannot have mango tree. Where do you see that in the seed? Physically, do you observe anything in the seed which says this is going to be tamarind tree and not mango tree? No. So that means there is this intelligent programming which is inbuilt in the seed, which is not visible to us, but in that program, how tall is the tree, how long is the life of a tamarind tree, what kind of fruit it will give, the whole program is there. So mithya does not mean that it is all just random. It is extremely intelligently put together. The objects are not just random objects. They are there is highly sophisticated intelligence which has a program. Thousands of years ago, a tamarind seed gave that kind of a tree. Unless you intervene genetically, it will have the same thing. Okay? Even to intervene genetically, you need to understand how the design is, and you need to intelligently intervene to produce the result that you want. So that means you have to work within that design. You have to first understand that design, and then you have to intelligently intervene. Things don't happen randomly. Okay? So this is the first thing. Mithya is intelligently organized. Okay?
Would you say the attribution of that intelligent design is random?
So this is, sorry?
Just to be devil's advocate,
yes.
Couldn't you say that the attribution of that intelligent design is totally random? Like the fact that it's a tamarind tree versus a mango seed versus a tamarind seed.
No, but the thing is that the design, why do you say, is because the tamarind tree will always give tamarind tree and not mango tree. See, if it was random, there would be non-predictability. That's what I mean. Okay, so that means there is the human body, has certain organs. This is something which is not random. It's not like you have liver and I have something else. It's all thousands of years ago they had the similar kind of organs, and now they have same organs, right? So this is what I mean by design. Okay? And human eye is programmed in a way that you only have capacity. You can't see the bacteria, you can't see the virus. It has a given range. Okay? A dog's range is a different range. Right? That's why they can sometimes see the world very differently. The objects that you see with your eyes are not exactly the objects that they see with that. The same object appears different because the programming of their eye is different. So that means there is a intelligent programming. The very fact that it is intelligent programming is something which we can understand, because when you go to a doctor, okay, and you have an eye problem, and the doctor is seeing you for the first time, the doctor doesn't know you very well, okay, but just by description of your symptom, the doctor knows exactly what problem you have. How?
Because he's understood that intelligence.
Excellent. That means he is understood. In fact, when you go to medical school, you may not even first see the human eye. Whose eye do you see first? Everything happens to rat first. Right? They study the medical college. The first thing they do is they study a rat, and they study the whole, and then they say there is an inference. All the medicines are first tested where? On these animals, poor animals. Okay. Whatever works there will also work here. That is scary, right? So because what is there is an order, there is an intelligent design, and because of the intelligent design you can infer. If things were random, you cannot just have any inference. Okay, so therefore you can say if it works on a frog or a rat, it will work on human being. Okay, and then when it works on one human being, it will also work on other human beings. There are series of inferences here. Okay, and those inferences are possible because there is a predictability, there is knowledge, there is an intricate design. It doesn't deviate from certain norms. If it deviated from the norms, you would have no possibility of making an inference, because your inference wouldn't be right. Right? So this is what we say intelligent design. This intelligent design which you see permeating through everything, the eyes, the neurons. Right now I'm talking, the neurons are ticking, all the chemical and electrical connections are working for you to make sense of the words that I'm speaking. This is an intelligent design. There are centers in the brain, right? In my last retreat that I did, a psychiatrist came and he said that there are three main centers in the brain. One is what we call instincts. You know, that is like every human being and every living being is given some instinct. What are the instincts? Instincts of survival. Okay, food, the needs, progeny. All this is what we call, it goes in the instinct. Then there is another center of the brain which is what we call cortex, where all the reasoning takes place, right? This is something which is not created by you and me. They know exactly which is the center of the brain which gets activated by what. Okay, so that in that cortex all the reasoning takes place. Okay, then what he was telling me, and that is what we call rational mind. Okay, you go to school, you learn different things, and this is what you acquire knowledge. This all happens in cortex. Okay. Then what he told me is, now the medical science is talking about neocortex. Neocortex is wisdom. Not just applying, generally when you use your rational mind, you see one thing and you try to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the understanding of that thing. You are a violinist, you want to understand better and better and be more and more creative. So that means you focus on one thing and you become better and better. But that given orientation may not always give us the ability to live life better. Okay? So you can be highly successful, you can be a CEO who cracked everything, how to do a business. Or you can be a musician and you are outstanding, you're a genius. Okay? Or you're a painter and you're brilliant. Or you're a designer and you are very, very creative, right? But this is all working at a cortex level, but it does not necessarily give you the ability to live with wisdom. Okay? So neocortex is coming out and looking at life and asking some very fundamental questions that we always ignore. Okay? What are those fundamental questions? Who am I? Right? These are the fundamental. And what is the nature of the universe? What is my relationship with the universe? These are the questions that nobody, basically, they get so busy doing whatever they are doing, okay, and trying to fulfill that instinct, the needs which are created by the instincts, that they never think about those things. But what he said is, to live an effective life of fulfillment, it requires that you develop your neocortex. When you develop your neocortex, the other two centers, are they going to cease to exist? No, they will remain. What happens is, before, all the decisions were made when only from instinct and cortex. You did not have the wisdom, the background of the wisdom to incorporate in your decision making. By developing that, you are adding what? You are increasing the infrastructure of your brain to assess situations differently from a much bigger and broader perspective. Okay? So that means you are equipping your brain with a certain wisdom, in light of which you become holistic in your thinking, and not, you become multi-dimensional in your thinking and not just unidimensional. Okay? So that is what we call the intelligence which makes your brain, my brain, her brain what it is, so that the psychiatrist can map the brain and say, these are the centers that you are activating. Okay, so that intelligence which governs not only the atoms and particles which make it into a wood, okay, or a human being, human organ, a human mind, that intelligence is, where is that intelligence? Yeah. Excellent, right? That intelligence is not sitting somewhere out there. This intelligence, by the way, we call Ishvara. Ishvara is, in English, you call it God. Intelligence which is organizing mithya in a highly sophisticated manner. Right? Mithya is not something which is random. This is what you need to understand. Otherwise, our whole thing, like when Uday, when he first listened to Vedanta, he says, yeah, I'm awareness, but what? I'm stuck with my body and I have to live with my mind. And this is exactly what it says. Yes, the mind and body is not you, but they are not just random creations. And you have a special relationship with it.
I have a question that you can just dismiss and say it's very bad. But how is it then that, and this is something that I'm close to, so maybe it's only relevant, but how is it then that now we are digressing from a natural path? If you're saying the whole world and the universe is, this intelligence and awareness is omnipresent.
Yes.
And if you take that, the natural path, is the more like you preserve nature or something, then how is it that we are digressing from something that should come naturally because we are one and that intelligence is one?
Yeah, excellent. Right? So this is a very good question, right? So now we will understand that. That's a very good question. Excellent question. So what he's saying is that intelligence which is organizing the brain, right, and making us understand is something which, as Kanika says, is very much there. Okay? Even though that intelligence is there, most of our life, do we even know the presence of that intelligence which is organized? We don't even look into it. Okay, so that means that there is a capacity in that intelligence to what? Veil. Veil means to keep from our understanding what is the reality. That's why when we are born not knowing anything about the world as well as ourselves. So that's why we go to the best of the schools, which does what? Terrific job with what? Removing ignorance about mathematics, removing ignorance about physics, removing ignorance about biology. Okay? The plant kingdom is already designed by that intelligence. But from my awareness, I don't know how it is organized, but I can go to school and then I can remove ignorance about that. Human beings, we don't create knowledge. Before Newton discovered laws of gravity, the apples were already falling. Right? It's not that they required Newton to discover what? Laws of gravity. It's already part of the design, it's already worked out in the universe. So this worked out in the universe is what we call the intelligence, which decides that when an object falls at that speed and from this height, this is how long it will take for it to reach the ground. It happens thousands of years ago, it happens now, and it will happen in the future. This is what we call the intelligent design, in which you are born. But you don't necessarily know how the world works. But you are given the capacity to remove that ignorance. So that's what we keep on doing. We keep on removing the ignorance about the world. But what happens is we never remove the ignorance about our own nature. That continues to be hidden from our understanding. So that's what, because people don't even realize it. Okay? So that's why you need to be a person who even wants to remove ignorance about the nature of I, you need to be what? Like Nachiketa.
But why is that? Why is there such a blind spot in human evolution that we can understand intelligent design everywhere around us, but when it comes to ourselves, it's
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So this is where, but the main thing is everybody is like that. Okay, but you are given the potential to remove it. So what is a wise thing to do? Use that potential and remove it. Everything is given as a possibility. Okay, you can choose to remove your ignorance about, how to be a very good musician. I could have also done it. It's given as a potential. What potential you collapse, it is based on your free will and what you understand of life. This is why to come to Vedanta, you have to recognize this thing that Nachiketa recognized, that Artha, Dharma and Kama cannot solve the problem of inadequacy, limitation, non-fulfillment that any human being has.
But it's like purposely there is a veil on.
There is a veil, which is what we call Maya. That I will talk about later. Okay? That intelligence, when it is manifesting in a way that all that is already worked out from our own standpoint. We don't know it. But if you were just stuck with that ignorance, it would be an unfair creation. But if you were given the capacity to lift that veil, that is brilliant. Then you just have to help yourself and lift the veil. Just as you do about every other subject matter, you also have to do it with reference to yourself, your true nature. That potential is given to you. Okay? So when you go to physics class, you don't ask, if time and space is relative, how come I don't know it? Hey, you don't know it, but you can know it. So use a different teaching to help yourself and remove your ignorance. Okay? This is what we call intelligent living, because you're born in the design. You need to understand what is the nature of design and then help yourself to what? Living a meaningful life by understanding the design. Okay? So therefore, the thing that we talk about, that intelligence is what we call Ishvara. So the Vedic vision of Ishvara is that Ishvara, the God, is not what? Away from the world. It is not some uncle sitting somewhere out there and what? Using us like his puppets and making us do things or not do things. We are not totally programmed. Okay? That intelligence is pervading everything. Your brain, my brain, her brain, cat's brain, reptile's brain, aquatic creature's brain, everything. Okay? So that is something which is there. Now, the nature of manifestation, coming back to linearity. Okay? Linearity is what we think is that the world began at a given time. Okay? And then what? Big Bang is the time that we think that the world began. Okay? The Vedic vision of the world is that intelligence which manifests in form of the whole, which makes it possible for the whole mithya world to come about, is what we call, it becomes manifest and unmanifest, manifest and unmanifest. This is what we call cyclical nature of creation. It is what we call beginningless. Okay? Now, this is something that you need to understand. How do you know which is more valid? The cyclical vision of creation or linear vision? Okay? If I ask you a question, okay, what came first, the seed or the tree, what will you answer? If the nature of the universe was linear, you should be able to arrive at the beginning. You will say,
It's a spiral.
Sorry, it's a spiral. Exactly. You don't come to know, right? This is what we mean by cyclical nature of creation. If you have the creation which is cyclical in nature and you look for linear answers, you will never find it. You ask, what came first, father or son? Chicken or egg? Okay? Your understanding of the universe is not accurate. That's why from this understanding you can't find an answer. Okay? So what they say is, and even the seed was there, it is invisible in that the whole program of tree is there. What was unmanifest before becomes manifest. Okay, so that means now let us look at the creation. Okay, the Big Bang that we talk about, we say is beginning of one cycle of the creation. One cycle of creation means what? The time and space came, and all the objects within time and space just came into being. Before that, what was there? Before the manifestation, this intelligence in an unmanifest form. Okay, Ishvara. This is what the Vedas says.
The science just says that that's the beginning of time.
Exactly. So what we say, absolutely, right? The science says it is the beginning of time, we can't go beyond that. But if you look at only scientific model, then even you enter into some kind of a logical absurdity, because you can say before time and space, what was there? And if you say nothing, okay, then from nothing everything cannot come. And if there is something, then what is that something? Okay?
Even the other religions like Christianity, etc., they all follow a linear.
Exactly, they all follow a linear creation.
Yeah, Adam and Eve,
Absolutely,
and then
absolutely,
human race.
absolutely. So that means there are some major differences, right? The Mithya world is organized through what? That intelligence, and that intelligence pervades everything. It's not out there, okay? That is the first difference. The second difference is that intelligence, before the universe manifests, it was already there in an unmanifest form, like how the tree is unmanifest in the seed. Okay?
But that theory means there was a universe before.
Exactly. So that means that that intelligence, when it is manifest as time, space and object, you call it creation. When it becomes unmanifest, you call it resolution. And then another manifestation and resolution. Manifestation and resolution. Like the tree, you cut, as long as the roots are there, it will come up again, right? And you keep on cutting and it will come up again. Manifest.
What is the source then of this intelligence of this rock?
So, yeah, that we will come to, because that is true. What is the source of that intelligence? That's a very relevant question, okay? But you need to, that is the last, right? First you need to little bit look into that, the nature of intelligence, and the last question that Vedanta answers is, what is the source of that intelligence? Okay? That we will see a little bit later. Okay? So therefore, right now we are saying that the world is what? First, it is intelligence, it is manifest, unmanifest, manifest, unmanifest. Okay? And that intelligence is pervading the whole creation. What is one? This is what we call Mithya Jagat. It's very interesting. It is Mithya Jagat, but it is intelligently put together. Mithya means it has a dependent reality, but everything depends upon intelligence. It's a manifestation of that intelligence, and then it becomes unmanifest. Mithya Jagat. Mithya Jagat means the Jagat has dependent reality. Okay? So it's well organized. It's not random. Okay? One way to understand that how this whole creation can come and get resolved, is through your own experience of dream. Every night, okay, from your own intelligence, what happens? You create dream world. You create dream time, dream space, dream characters. In the entire dream world, is your intelligence the pervading everything or not? It pervades everything. When the dream gets resolved, your intelligence remains intact. While the dream is going on, whatever happens to the character, does anything happen to your intelligence? Nothing. It remains intact. But what is the experience during the dream? The experience during the dream, but just last Sunday I read an article in Times of India about if your child has a nightmare, how to treat the child, what next morning what to do with the child. That means in that dream, which is created entirely by the child what became just one character in that dream, and what accumulated experience and even a trauma. The whole creation was what? His own creation, right? But while going through that, what happened? He took himself to be only one character in the dream and not the entire dream. And it left such an impact that when the child grows up all perturbed. Okay? So this is where, in this whole creation, the intelligence pervades everything and everywhere, in and through everything. No matter what happens to the character, the intelligence remains intact, never affected by it. So for example, very important, okay, if Ishvara pervades everything, okay, then people ask, why is there suffering? Why is there violence? Why is there crime? This is a typical question that people ask. What you have to understand is that intelligence, when it makes your brain what it is. Okay? Now, when you're born with this brain, you are given certain possibilities. The possibilities is what? The free will. Free will is what? I can choose to do something, I need not do it, or I can do it differently. Okay? Along with this free will is like having a car. Along with this, imagine having a car without a brake. What will happen? Disaster. Okay? So along with this free will, you're also given a brake, and that is your own understanding of dharma. Dharma means what is right and what is wrong. Okay? Every child is born knowing that I should not be hurt, and equally others should not be hurt. Others also don't want to be hurt. Okay? This is what we call a brake to your free will. That means you can choose your actions, but what? Up to the point that you don't step on somebody. Okay? That understanding every human being is given. But does everybody incorporate that understanding in their decision making? No. Why? Because sometimes when I look at the situation, I am not objective. Okay? My needs, my gains, my short-term defined interests become so big that the understanding that I am given about the rightness or wrongness gets neglected, even though you understand. So that's why, as Uday is asking this question, that everybody knows that we are damaging environment and it is detrimental to us. But when you are in a company, you're a CEO, you have to make a decision. Okay, you have to see sometimes the profit, and then if you use a technology which is more eco-friendly, maybe there is going to be reduction maybe in your profit. Then what happens? What choice do you make? Okay, so that means it would depend upon what is your neocortex. Okay, how are you defining the problem? How are you looking at the world and your role in it? If you see it only from the standpoint of your short-term gains, then obviously you will make a decision which will disregard the environment, because you don't really see the direct costs. But if you have a neocortex aspect, you say, oh my God, I have responsibility. By doing this, not only I'm damaging the thing, but also posterity, myself, my quality of life. This is what we say, becoming mithya world requires a lot of intelligence to make decisions. You can't just dismiss mithya world as transitory and not pay attention to it. You need to understand how it works. So this is in order to understand how mithya world works, you need to understand intelligence that pervades everything. okay, which governs our interaction. And if you disregard that intelligence which governs our interaction, you are harming yourself and you're harming the whole balance of things. This is how you become far more responsible decision maker, by bringing in Ishvara. Ishvara is that intelligent design which connects us all together and governs our interaction through series of laws. You can't ignore it. Okay, so this is what we call the nature of Ishvara, which is what? Manifest, unmanifest, manifest, unmanifest. And every manifestation is an intelligent design where we are all connected. Through, I showed in this shloka, when she invited me to give a talk at Harvard Club, I showed this Indra's net, if you remember that. Indra's net is what? Infinite connections between all the beings in this world. Summer was there. Okay? We live our life so oblivious to this net which already exists. And that's why we do harm, as Uday says.
Is there an answer to the question that why and how is it that we have the maximum impact? Why humans? Like, how is it that we've been around for so long, such a short time? Evolution has taken us to this degree of intelligence. Like, no monkey is reaching Mars. Monkeys are reaching Mars. Is there an answer that how is it that one thing,
species,
even though everything is intelligently programmed,
yes,
one has such a big impact?
Yes, yes. So this is why they say human birth is a very important birth, because you don't have other beings, many other beings are largely programmed. They have perception, they have inference, they have that instinct very, very intact, right? So they are very intelligent. But at the same time, their cortex and neocortex, is that possibility, the brain possibility, the design is limited. Okay, but that does not mean that it's only human being. What we say is that there are equivalent species everywhere in the universe. So on this earth, human is the most evolved species, and this is why. Sorry, so it's a karma. Exactly, it's connected to one's karma. That even to get a birth like this, where you can know things and you can even know your true nature, you can solve the whole puzzle. That is a privileged birth, and that is based on your karma. Exactly. That's why they say human birth is a very precious birth, because that human brain design is different from other design. You can't waste it away. You have to use it. You have to use it wisely. Okay, so this is the first thing. The other thing, which is the next verse I want to do, and it says, Yat idam kincha jagat sarvam pranam ejati nisrutam mahad bhayam vajram adhyatam ya etat viduhu amrutate bhavanti. Okay, so that means now imagine that if you're living in a world which is intelligently put together through different laws, and if you don't recognize those laws, what is the quality of your living? The laws of gravity work and you say, I don't care, I don't see the laws of gravity, I don't care, and you go out from the window, what will happen? You will fall and you will hurt yourself. Okay? So if the world is designed in a certain way, you can't say, I don't care, because your quality of life is what? Directly related to what? How much you understand those laws. So therefore, you need to bring the understanding of different laws in your decision making. Okay? Now, there are two critical laws. There are other laws I will talk about, but two critical laws with reference to my interaction with the universe. One is called law of dharma and the other one is called law of karma. Okay? Law of karma, when people talk, they make it into some kind of a destiny-based, fatalistic. It's nothing to do with destiny and fatalism. Okay? It has to do with understanding the laws of cause and effect, which are there, which govern the universe. Okay? So that is what it says, that when you, as I told you, when you have to perform an action, if you don't regard this law of dharma, the sense of right and wrong that is given to you, which is part of the design of the brain, okay, because you see some short-term gain and you disregard that, then what is, that is a choice that you make. You have a free will, and understanding the situation, seeing it from a short-term gain, you make a decision. So that means you have a possibility of also looking at things differently. Okay? But you have not chosen to look at things from a broader perspective. You get stuck to your narrow perspective. And you make a decision, okay, which is what we call, when you make a decision, what have you done? You have disregarded law of dharma. Law of dharma means that something which is given to you in your brain as a part of the human brain, the understanding. Okay? When you do that, right, generally we think that if you're not caught and if you don't go to jail, or if income tax doesn't come behind you, you are freeing yourself. What law of karma says, there is no such thing, because there is a law. That means every action will have its action is a cause, it will have an effect. It is inbuilt in this intelligent design. Nobody can bypass that design. Right? So that means for every choice that you make, there are consequences. You must incorporate, right? Generally what happens is, we don't incorporate the consequences which are going to be produced by the laws of karma in our decision making. So that means laws of dharma, and they are like two sides of one coin. One is law of karma, the other one is law of dharma. Law of dharma, depending upon your actions and how you use your free will, this you will have to undergo the consequences. Okay? Yes.
But the law of the land at that time said it's illegal. The laws changed over time.
Yeah. So that's very good. So when we are talking about laws, we are not talking about man-made laws. Okay? There is something which is like legal, legal laws. You could do something. In fact, Gandhiji's the moment of disobedience. The whole thing was illegal. That's why they were all going to jail. But it was not against laws of dharma. You understand? Because sometimes you can be doing something which is illegal, but you can still be in keeping with a larger dharma. This is how people, the freedom fighters, right? All these people until until 1950s. In the US, the slavery was official.
So what do you do when they both in conflict?
So that means, which is a much more fundamental dharma? More fundamental is what we call the laws of dharma.
For doing something good for other people, that is fine. What about, let's say, something like paying tax?
Yeah.
You try and not pay a tax.
Yeah.
Which is not fair.
Which is yeah. So that's why. I mean, yes.
Over a period of time, they remove that.
Yeah.
So
Or, yeah, but when it is there, then I mean, see, there are some legal ways of, you have deductions and all, and if you can find an intelligent way of saving, I don't think it's so wrong or anything, right? But this total evasion or that is something which is it's not healthy, right? Because if everybody does that and then you complain that, nothing gets done, so then people argue that, oh, but then, the politicians are corrupt and anyway the money doesn't go to people and all. But if everybody starts thinking that, then there is a chaotic, and this is why options are given. Okay, so that means it's very interesting. What Samar is saying is our whole vision of dharma is dynamic. Okay, so let's say two people are avoiding to pay taxes. Okay, one person is just doesn't care. The other person says, okay, the government people are not using this money effectively, but I'm going to use this money that I'm supposed to pay for the tax by building a school, starting a healthcare center. You both are evading taxes, but you think that in terms of the laws of dharma, both are doing the same? No. So this is why laws of dharma and karma are extremely sophisticated. They adjust all this. This is why you have something called, in fact, people do a lot of charity, or traditionally in India, businessmen do a lot of charity because they know that while doing business, they've done something which is not totally right. So to compensate for that, what do? They initiate certain projects for what? Benefit of the people, which will somehow neutralize the wrongdoing, not legally but through laws of karma. They had that understanding that you can always do, because sometimes it's not always possible to have 100% following of dharma. That also is recognized.
Many times we lie.
So exactly, so many times.
And they're good lies. They
Exactly. Absolutely. Right? So this is what Nawaz says. According to us, the whole intelligent design of dharma is not rigid. It's very dynamic. I think when we discussed dharma and we discussed Nachiketa, we saw all these points, right? As Nawaz says, that imagine that somebody is coming to harm and another person, and you give a shelter to this person who's going to be beaten up. Okay? Now this person comes and knocks on your door and says, is this person there? Will you say yes or no? It depends, right? But if you say no, then is it that you're telling a lie? But what is the interest? The interest is to what? Protect that other person from being beaten up. So therefore, the responsibility of that lie is the same as responsibility of lying and cheating somebody? No. So this is how laws of dharma, when we talk about dynamic nature of dharma. And this is why you require intelligence to interpret it correctly.
How does it, I don't know if it's a strange question, but I want to know, how does it work? Is it on the basis of energy vibrations? Like, what is the cause and effect? How does that happen?
The cause and effect is inbuilt into that intelligence.
But just structurally, how
Yeah.
does it work?
Structurally means it is part of, for example, and let's look at, for example, structurally what happens is that the universe itself undergoes a slight shift. For example, when we make these decisions which are environmentally not friendly, okay, so that means the state of environment that you experience today is a result of the actions which are performed by human beings starting from when? Industrial revolution. What is that? How is it carried forward? Those actions of people who made some decisions at the time of the Industrial Revolution, where manufacturing and production and all increased manyfold time, even some effects are existing now. What is carrying it forward? What is a physical form of carrying it forward?
It's like that example of that child who gave us with the father's money. Right?
Exactly, how it gets translated. right? So that means constantly the universe is in making, even though the intelligent design is intact, okay? So certain principles are intact, the universe is in making. It depends upon the decisions that we make. So that means tomorrow, the nature, we are not only shapers of our own life through our own actions, we are also shapers of the whole universe, because we are all connected through series of laws. That's why we have to live with responsibility. Okay? Because there are small changes which take place, which become what? Very visible over a period of time. They get accumulated. It's not like it is carried through, in the system itself, you begin to see the changes.
There's such a great web between all the things and all people.
Yes.
Is it anywhere that there's a sort of a universal soul as well, rather than just very, very individual souls?
Okay, so that means that all these different things, there is that what you call universal soul is what we call that intelligence, in which every part is connected. Every part comes into manifestation, and each... the intelligence, as I told you, that you can have sadness as a result of, let's say, no, not you, anybody, or happiness, let's not take, right? So that means that there is something which is making those brain connections, activating those brain connections in a way that your pleasure centers get activated. Okay? While that happens, you experience happiness, but the intelligence is not happy or sad or anything, because the next minute that same intelligence can configure your brain cells in a different way, that it will change from pleasure to what? Pain. So the intelligence pervading everything, it is always free from everything. So otherwise you will load all the problems onto that intelligence. The intelligence, yes.
Okay, let's say in this life, each individual soul is very individual to them.
Yes.
And when we pass away and we
yes.
get recycled in this
yes. Yes.
Is it that certain strains of the soul get removed
okay.
and
excellent.
amalgamated in a different way?
Okay, excellent. What she is asking is a different question, and that is, how do, for example, now let's look a little bit into karma, then I will answer this question, right? So this law of karma, it ensures, you have time or you have to go?
Actually, no.
Okay, in 5 minutes I will wind up, right? The law of dharma, which is one side, which is dynamic, right? Interpretation, right interpretation will produce a result. Okay. Now this result is what we call twofold result. One is what we call seen result, and the other one is unseen result. Seen result is what we call drishta phalam, and unseen result is what we call adrishta phalam. Seen result is the minute you do something good for somebody, okay, before somebody even recognizes it, you feel good. That is universe responding, giving you feedback about nature of your action instantaneously. This is why they say that if you do something wrong, you can't avoid guilt. You can be so damaged that you may totally ignore and block yourself to guilt. That is really what we call abnormal. But a normal human being, okay, that is what? When you do something wrong, that is universe's immediate response to you, showing you the nature of your action. This is what we call the intelligent design, law of dharma and law of karma. This is what we call the seen result, immediate feedback. Okay. Then what it says is, seen feedback is not something which is just, right now, and it is 1 or 2 minutes. It lasts for 1 or 2 minutes and then it's gone. Then they say that it is carried forward is what we call the unseen result. The very fact that it is carried forward, you don't know when it will produce, okay, what kind of result. You don't know. That's why you are unable to connect as to this much wealth I have. I'm born in a highly privileged family. I have access to the best of education. Why? You don't know. You can't attribute. We generally think, we always think, but why do I have this problem? But how many privileges that you're born with, that we don't count. This is all result of good actions. It cannot just come like that. Okay, so that means you have done something extremely noble to deserve a privileged birth. Don't take it for granted. Okay? But if you want to keep the privileges, what happens? When you born with privileges, what? Sometimes you become proud, you become arrogant, then what? Then your actions start to what? Deteriorate in quality. That actually leads to your downfall. If you understand that I'm born in a privileged family, but it's not something which is constant. If I want to keep the privileges going, I have to what? Use the resources that I have been endowed with responsibly. This is how you're in harmony with what? Law of dharma and law of karma. Then you don't become arrogant with all the money that you have, or any resource, not just money, intelligence, all the privileges that you enjoy, but you use it more effectively and you are humble. Okay? This is how we call living intelligently, living responsibly, seeing how mithya world works. You can't just say it's transitory and therefore it'll go. But it'll go, but it matters a lot how you act and how you live your life in this mithya world. Okay? So Ishvara, that intelligence which is binding. So unseen result, now coming back to your question. Okay? The unseen result, where do they accumulate? This is your question. Because my unseen result are different from your unseen result, his unseen result. So where is that place? That is also kind of your question, right? So this is why we say there are three different bodies here. One is what we call the physical body, Sthula Sharira. Sthula Sharira is physical body. The other one is Sukshma Sharira. What is Sukshma Sharira? People, when I say Sukshma Sharira, people enter into some imaginary mode. Oh, some lights and some aura. We are not talking. When Vedas talk about Sukshma Sharira, they are very sane, they are very rational. They talk about your mind. Okay? Why is it Sukshma? Because only you know what your thoughts are. I can't see your thoughts. That's why it is subtle from my standpoint. Okay? I can see your physical eye, but I don't know how much it sees. That's why you call it subtle. Okay? So subtle body includes all the physiological functions, the capacity of your sense organs, your mind. This is what we call subtle body. So wherever there is physical body, that's where there is subtle body. Then you can ask a question, why your physical body and subtle body is different from my physical and subtle body? Why? Because this is where we say the unseen result is what we call causal body. The unseen result of your actions, which are not fructifying now, they are in one account, which is what we call the causal body. The causal body has unseen result of what? All the cycles of creation. Because that's why we don't have a linear creation. It's not only this cycles of creation accumulated unseen result of so many actions. It's mind-boggling. It's unfathomable. Okay? So out of this whole account that we have, in one lifetime we are unable to exhaust it, right? Because how many unseen results we have accumulated? Too many through cycles of creation. So out of this overall account, which is what we call Sanchita karma, Sanchita means, Chitta means collected, well collected karma, a given set give rise to one physical body and mind, where you have to go through specific situations, your unique life, your unique body, your unique mind, your unique situations. This is what we call prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means, arabdha means already begun. Prakarshena arabdha, already started fructifying. You go through experiences in life. Okay? As you go through experiences in life, you also then make your choices, right? You don't just sit and quietly and passively and just go through situations. You also act. Okay? Okay, so while you respond to situations, you do what? Accumulate new karmas. This is what we call agami karma. Agami karma means two people go through difficulty, two people can come out very differently. One can really learn from it and become much bigger, and the other person can be totally caught in that vicious circle of blaming somebody else or blaming oneself, and being kind of self defeating all the time. So that means the present, how you deal with, will have repercussions on what your future is going to be. That's why when we understand laws of dharma and karma, we don't become passive. You have to remain extremely proactive, because what you are experiencing today is not removed from the past, but what will happen in the future is not independent of the choices that you make in the present. Okay, so therefore the constant you strive to make more responsible choices, because this is how you become you ensure better life for you as well as for everything around you, because you are part of one whole grand design of things. You are not isolated human being. Okay, this is how you need to understand mithya world to live effectively. Okay, laws of dharma and laws of karma you can't ignore, because they are operating all the time. So that means if your life is not aligned, it's not on track, what happens? You slowly bring it back on track, in connection with these laws, how it works. Okay? It's strategic living. Imagine that there is a river flow and it flows. Okay? And you have a boat and you have to reach a destination. Imagine if you don't place it right, you try to go against the flow. What is the effort? Okay? Or if you don't position it right. But if you navigate your life intelligently and just place your boat with the flow, what happens? Life becomes so much more easier, and it becomes, you can achieve what you want to achieve so much better. Okay? This is what we call intelligent interventions. Understanding how the world works and making your choices in keeping with those laws, and helping yourself and helping the whole web. Okay, so this is how further we will see as to how the whole intelligence is connecting us all together. I will talk about it. I will just do prayer.
I have a lecture to teach.
Yeah, go. Yes, please go. Yes. Okay, bye. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.